Hi guys, it's Mrs. C here. I wanted to take a few minutes and go over some of my favorite review games for the older classes. You could use this for journeymen and masters. Most of these I probably wouldn't use for the younger ones, mostly because there's just other fun games that you can play with them that the older kids, they get a little too old for them. But these were some of the ones that I played last year that were super fun. I'm going to try to explain them as best as I can without actually having someone here to play them with. So hopefully you will get the idea. And if you have questions, feel free to ask and I will try to do as good a job as I can explaining them to you. So the first one that I did last year that I absolutely loved is based on the game show Deal or No Deal. I feel like not a lot of people have watched it, I guess. I don't know. We loved watching it when I was in, I think it was probably college, maybe it came after college, I can't remember, but it was one. It was fun. Howie Mandel is the guy who hosts it. It's the one that Meghan Markle was on, if you are into that. But basically what it is there's a whole bunch of cases. There's different money amounts in all of the cases. At the beginning that you pick the case that you want to be your case, and then you are trying to narrow down and hoping that you have $1 million in your case. So this does require a little bit of prep work, but once you've done it once, you can use it as many times as you want. It's not a consumable game. So you will need envelopes. I am extra and just printed these cases with the numbers on there. I just pulled up aluminum case, I think, and found a picture and stuck numbers on it. It's not anything special. You could just write numbers on an envelope. That's nothing special. And then I cut in half some note cards, goodness, and put the money value on there. Again, for time's sake, I'm not going to tell you all the number values. If you just look up online, Deal or No Deal case values, you will get a list of them. It goes all the way from 1 cent up into $1 million. You will need to write those up on the board so that they know what they have left in their cases. So you will take one of these cards and it will go into one of your cases. So before class starts or before you play the game, I would preload all of these into the cases, and they're random. You don't do them in any sort of order. And then you lay them out on the table 1 through, I think there's, let me see, I don't remember, 28 maybe, 26. There's 26. So you lay them out in order just so they can kind of keep track of what number, and it's easier to find the number when they tell you. You have them all laid out on the table. Yeah, 26 cases. So you have them all laid out on the table, and they select at the very beginning of the review game which case is going to be the class case. Okay, so let's say that for this one, they have selected case 15. So you don't look inside of it. You don't show them what's in it. You just take that envelope and you stick that to the side, and that is going to be their case. So we'll put it over to the side. Then you start asking review questions. So for the first round, you might ask them 7 review questions. You might go around, I had 7/8 in my class last year, so most of the time I had 7. So you go around the room, you ask 7 review questions, they answer the questions. Once they get done with that, then I just went in order around the room. The first student, they got to choose a case to open. So let's say that they chose this case number 14. They're like, all right, I want case 14. So you would take case 14, you would open it up and look what's inside. And it's the 1 cent. That's great, because that means that the 1 cent isn't in case 15. You want $1 million in this case, okay? So you would put case 14 to the side, and then you'd let the next student pick. And you would do, I don't know, like, I don't think I played it by the official rules, but I'd let like 3 students pick cases. So they pick case 11. We're going to open up case 11, and $400 in case 11. Not bad. That's actually really good. That's a low number. Good job. So we erase $400 off of our board. Case 11 goes to the side, and we let one more student pick. They look through and they decide that they're going to go with case 4. So we look in case 4 and open it up, and oh no, it's 400,000. That's one of our bigger numbers, but that's okay. So still not $1 million. There's still hope that $1 million is in your case number 15. So we put all of those 3 over to the side. We have erased off of the board 1 cent, $400, and was it 400? Yeah, $400 and $400,000. So we erase those off the board so they can see what's left and what the possibilities are. And then the banker calls. So this is where you have to like put on your acting chops a little bit and be the banker. Now last year, I'll show you who our banker was. If you followed along with me in my master's, you know that we had Mr. Bob Ross. He became our class mascot. So he was our banker. And I would be really silly with the kids because that's who I am. And Bob would pretend to talk to me, and he was the banker, and he would tell me how much he was willing to buy this case for. Because see, this is the bank's money in the case, and the bank doesn't want to give up the money. They want you to come away with very little money. So I would just make a random number up. Okay, there may be some app on the phone where you could get a legit number, but I just make a number up, and I'd make it something because I want this game to go on. I would make it a number they would not want to trade for. So I'd say, oh, Bob the banker, he saw that you guys lost 400,000, and that's kind of a lot, and you still have a lot of low numbers, so he's willing to buy your case for $1,742. And they'd be like, that's not a lot. We still have $1 million up there. We have 750,000 up there. We don't want to sell our case for that much. And they'd be like, okay. So we'd keep playing. So you go around again and you ask all review questions for everything. And this seems like it takes a long time because you're doing 7 review questions very quickly. And in my class last year, I had already reviewed geography. And usually while I was setting this up, we sang all the way through timeline. So I was only having to do 5 subjects. It's really not too bad. So I'd go around, I would ask a bunch of review questions, and then we would do the same thing again. As you get through the game further and you get down to less and less cases, you open less and less and you ask less review questions in between. So I might get to the point where I'm only asking two review questions and they open 1 case. And then we're doing like 1-to-1 by the very, very end of it. So hopefully you play and you get it to the point where you're down to like the last 2 cases, and they have to decide if they want to keep their case or if they want to trade their case. That's how it can end. You can decide that you want to keep what you started with, or you could trade it for this very last case. And they get to decide what they want to do. If they trade, okay, let's see what was in your case. If they want to stick with their case, which most of the time at this point they want to stick with their case, then you're like, all right, let's see what you won. And they won $50,000. Woo, that was great. But it's funny because they get very into it and it's very intense. And whenever they open big numbers, they get so upset. It's super fun. It's just a fun game. They get really into it. Like I said, there is a little bit of prep in getting your envelopes and your money made. But once you do that, you can play this umpteen times because it's different every time you play it. So I hope that made sense. I feel like if you've watched the show, then you totally get it. If you haven't watched the show, maybe go watch one before you try to play it so you understand exactly how it's played. But anyway, if they decide that they did want to sell their case, that's when you take the deal. So it's deal or no deal. So if they want to take the deal that the banker offers them, they would say deal, and most of the time they scream no deal at you. So anyway, that was deal or no deal. That one was really fun. They loved playing that one. We played it multiple times. The next one is called Give or Take. It's another one where there's a little bit of chance involved. So pre-class, I would have 2 dice drawn. I have these dry erase ones. I think I might just go ahead and do them in permanent marker because I kind of just use these for this all the time. But on one dice, I have plus and minus signs. The first time I did this, I had an equal amount, and then I realized that it was more fun when there was less chance for negative numbers. So I have 4 plus signs and 2 minus signs on this one. And then on this dice, I have number values. I have 1 20, 1 15, 2 10s, and 2 5s on this dice. You can do whatever number values you want to. So before they answer the review question, whichever student's turn it is, and I let everybody answer as a class, whose ever turn it is, they have to decide. Let me back up. All right, this is your dice. Divide your class into 2 teams. Last year, it worked really well to do boys against girls because I had equal numbers of those. But divide your class however you see fit to divide them. And then choose a student off of team 1 to start off. Everybody will get a turn, and you'll go back and forth between team 1 and team 2 evenly. So team 1, the first student, is going to decide prior to rolling the dice, they don't know what they're going to roll, if they want to give the points to the other team or if they would like to keep the points for themselves. Again, they don't know what they're rolling. So it's like you might be giving the other team 20 points or you might be giving them negative 10 points. You're not sure what you're going to roll. You also could keep 5 points for yourself, but you could roll negative 5 points. You just don't know. So it's just kind of it's fun. You just kind of got to decide what you want to do. So let's say that they decide that they're going to keep the points for this one. So then you ask the review question to that team, they answer, and then they roll the dice. So I'm going to roll these, and I got +5. So up on the board, I write team 1 +5, okay? Then we go to team 2. First player on team 2 decides, do they want to give or they want to take? And they're risky, and they're going to give it to the other team, okay? So you ask your review question, and then they roll the dice. Ooh, and they got -5. So because they gave it to the other team gets -5. So team 1's -5, so we're tied still 0-0. Team 1's turn, player 2 goes. They're going to decide before you roll. Again, that's the key. You got to decide before you roll if you want to give or take. So they decide that they're going to give it to the other team because the other team just gave them -5 points. So they're going to give to the other team, ask your review question, roll your dice. Oh, that was a bad choice because they rolled +10. So they just gave the other team 10 points. So it goes back and forth like that. Again, the key is to make them decide if they're going to give it or take before you answer the question and before they roll. Obviously, if they roll and they get a plus, they're going to want to keep it. So you got to have them choose beforehand so that there's an element of suspense to it. So it's super fun because it's just fun to see how they each play it. They all want to play a little bit different. They have a little bit different strategy. And the very first time I played this, we were tied like within 5 points by the end of our review, and the kids were on the edge of their seats about who was going to win. And so it was really fun. I love when they get into the games, and this was one they really got into. So again, all you need is some dice. You could use regular dice. Well, I guess you could use regular dice for your points, but you do need a plus or minus dice to decide. You could make up point value cards and play that way as well, and they would just draw the card off the top. They wouldn't know what it was, and so you could just have, make up a set that just has a bunch of plus and minus point values, and then whatever card they draw, it's, whatever point value, it might be -5 or +5 that you have written on the card. So you could do it with cards too if you didn't want to worry about dice, but I just find this to be easy. The next one is musical chairs. My kids love musical chairs. They have it all ages. And the older ones really get into it. If you have space for it, it's a fun one, especially if they've been a little rowdy that day, or if you had just end up having some extra time. If you get through review quickly and you have some extra time, musical chairs can be just a fun way to, or it can be a fun reward. If we get through all this review, then we can go play musical chairs. I did that a few times. You can play it with review. So if you do it with review, you'll have your chairs. I do it where there's not a person that's out for the whole time. Just if you don't have a chair, you're the person that gets the review question. So you just play like normal, have one less chair, then you do students. They go around, you stop the music. I usually do the timeline song for our music. When you stop the music, whoever doesn't have a chair, they get asked the review question, and then you play again. Now, you could play where you took out a chair if you have a very competitive class, and you could just play, they have to answer a review question, and then they sit out, and then everybody's answering a review question until you're down to the last two, and then whoever doesn't get the chair, they answer that last review question for the round, and then you start over. So that's a way to play it. But I typically just play it where you get to stay in, especially if you're playing with a younger age. But this is more for the older kids, so you're probably not watching that if you have the younger ones. Okay, then connect four. So I'm going to pull, sorry, that's just a terrible sound there. Pull this board over here and show you how I play connect four. Let's see if I can angle my camera down where you can see this a little bit better. Have it really tight in there. Hold on, technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, so now you can see my Connect 4 board. So with Connect 4, I would pre-draw this up on my whiteboard in class or the back of your whiteboard, or you can use one of these handy dandy things. This is one of those like little pocket charts, and it has 6x6. I think I'm pretty sure I got it at the dollar store. And then you can just use colored note cards to go in to indicate where they are dropping, because you don't really drop in these, but they just go to the bottom, where they are dropping their token. So you have two teams. We'll say that we've got blue and red. So again, divide your class into two teams and then ask team one the first review question. So let's say we're going to review week 2 science. You ask them what are, I can't think of, what were week 1 science from this year. What were the 6 days of creation? And then they would tell you the answer, and then they get to come up, whichever student, I make them take turns one at a time, comes up, and they're going to fill in where they would like their token to go. The rule is it goes all the way to the bottom, so you have to start at the bottom. You can't just fill in somewhere in here. So let's say they decide they want to go right here, so they just come up with their dry erase marker, and they're going to fill in their token there. Okay. Team 2's turn. They answer their review question. Player 1 comes up, and they decide that they want to put their token right over here, so they draw it in. Okay. Also, when doing this, because you want review to go quickly, the game is fun, but the point is not the game. So I am chopping. Like, we're not hemming and hawing about where we're putting it. You have about 10 seconds to get up here and put your thing, and I'm moving on. And if I get through and you still haven't put your token in and the other team comes up, if they steal your spot, that's your fault. You should have known where you were going. Maybe that's mean of me, but we got things to do. So now team 2's gone. Now it's back to team 1. Team 1 goes, and they decide that they get their review question answered. They decide that they want to go right here, so they get to go on top. Just like in Connect 4, if you drop it, it would have stopped here. So they're on top of that one. And you just keep going back and forth. Again, this is a very low prep game, especially if you're just drawing it on the board. They like it. They get pretty competitive. They get pretty strategical about where they're putting things. And you can get through a good deal of review questions, so you can play it a couple of times. But you can get through a pretty good amount of review questions per play. So that's a good one. All right, and then my next one I have, I'm going to readjust my camera here. Sorry about that. There we go. Is Battleship. So I have these pre-printed. I made these forever ago. So I made these with 1 through 6. So those are the review weeks. And then I have the categories up here. So T for timeline, H for history, S for science, M for math, English, Latin, geography. Okay. So whatever they pick, so let's say that they want to try to hit this spot right here. So they're going to pick English, and it's going to be week 4. So that's what I'm going to review. Now, obviously, when you get into second quarter, you don't have week 4. So whatever aligns with week 4, which would be week 8. Is that right? No. 6, 7, 8, 9. Week 9. Yeah. 10. Week 10. There we go. Week 10 aligns with week 4, so you would just do week 10. It's whatever your 4th week is of review. So you would ask them the review question for that. They have to answer it in order to hit that spot. Okay. Prior to starting to play, you want to have them draw in. It says at the bottom, color in your ships. So you have a 4 spaceship, a 3 spaceship, and 2 spaceships. So they pick where their ships are. Okay. When you're the player, you're going to pick a letter, which is a subject, and the number, which is the week. If you get the question right, you score a hit. And if you are not the person picking, but the player gets the question right, make an X on the square. So I would give them some dry erase markers. So they are going to draw their ships in with one color, and then they'll make an X with another color. So everyone will need 2 color markers. Okay. So they go through, and let's say they have their 4 ship right here, and that person picked E4 and they got it right. So they put an X there, so they have hit part of their battleship, just like the game you played as a kid. Okay. If they hit all the squares, your ship has been sunk. So I do play that you don't hit your own ships. So if you are picking one and that's where one of your ships is, it doesn't hurt your ship if it's there. we've never played it and played long enough where we've gotten through an entire game. So it doesn't really matter that you don't hit your own ship. But if you wanted to play that way, you could. It would encourage people, I guess, to not hit their own ships and pick somewhere else. But anyway, so that is Battleship. That one's pretty easy. You can play against the teacher if you wanted to. Like, I could put my ships up on the board and they could just do this and try to hit my ships. If you wanted to make it a little bit easier, if you have a slightly younger class, that might be a good way. And the last one, I think everybody knows about this one, but in case you don't, is rockets. Rockets are my favorite. You can find this on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a free printable. I've printed, oh, that one needs to be cleaned. I have printed them, laminated them. So again, there is some prep, but then once you're prepped, you can reuse it as many times as you want. You need a rocket, a dry erase marker, and where'd my dice go? I had to think of dice. And you need a die for every student. So just have those anyway. Once you pass these out, everybody has one. I like to play, everybody rolls every question we ask. I play as a class. You could play individually, but I just find it goes faster if I play as a class. So what happens is you ask a review question, students answer, everybody rolls their dice. So we're gonna roll our dice, and I got a 3 for this roll. So I take my marker and I cross out my number 3. I'll just go ahead and do it. 3 is crossed out. Awesome. Okay, so ask another review question. Everybody rolls their dice, and I got a 6 this time. So I'm gonna cross out my number 6. Okay, we ask another review question. We answer, everybody rolls their dice, and I got a 6 again this time. So unfortunately, I've already marked off a 6, so I can't mark off another number, so I just have to wait. We ask another review question. We roll our dice after we answer. Ooh, and I got a 5 this time. The object is to fill up all of your numbers. And once you've filled up all of your numbers, you get to blast off. If you have younger kids, when they blast, if one person blasts off, everybody gets to get up and one lap around the room, and then they come sit down and erase their rockets, and we play again. So with the older kids, how, you know, my kids still liked to run last year, so I would let them, actually, we played this one time and I had a lot of very active athletic kids. So they actually got to get up and run a lap around the entire building and then come sit back down because they needed it that day. So when you're done, you just erase it. Oh, I'm shaking the whole table, sorry. You just erase it and then you play again. You can play it as many times as you need to get through all the review questions. Again, I find, especially for younger kids, playing it as a class where one person blasts off, then everybody gets to do it. Works a lot better than individual. But if you're playing with older kids and they're competitive, you might just let them do it individually. So those are all of my, I think I'm looking at my, I have a list over here. Those were my favorite review games to do with my master's class last year. Again, most of these are pretty low to no prep or one-time prep and then you're done. If you have questions or comments on any of them, I'm happy to answer what I can. And if I can find the printable for this that I made up forever ago, because it's been forever and many computers ago, I will try to link it in a Google Doc in the bottom. Again, this is on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can look it up on Pinterest, the Rocket Game, but you can look on Teachers Pay Teachers, the Rocket Game. This is like the first thing that pops up. And I will, so you can find those, but I'll try to put the link for it in the description if you would like to print these off. And then the rest of it is just very low prep, just use your board to do it. So anyway, I hope those were helpful. I hope they give you some new ideas that freshen up review time for you. I will be back soon with second quarter for cycle 2 and some other hopefully helpful tips for some of the different sections of foundations. Remember what I'm doing. Anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome day. I'll see you soon. Bye.